Quick question. How many of you guys have watched the movie John Q with Denzel Washington? Alright, a few of you. For those of you that haven't watched it, it's about a father who has a child that's in need of a heart transplant. And they don't have enough money to pay for it. So he raises the money, but then once he gets the money, he finds out that his son is too far on the list to actually get the heart in time for him to actually live. And that's just a basic summary of the movie, but then that problem of him being on the list for a donor is one of the many problems in the medical healthcare. And that's one of the problems that the science of cloning can actually fix, which leads to my claim that the cloning of humans for medical uses will provide more benefits than drawbacks. But for some background information, the actual idea of cloning began in 1997 with the first successful birth of the cloned sheep named Dolly. And since then, scientists have cloned other animals like dogs, pigs, and cows, and other livestock to try and perfect the process and to have more successful births, to eventually move on and try attempts at cloning humans. However, at this time, all attempts at cloning humans have failed, and even now, cloning in the U.S. and in other countries, due to ethical and safety concerns, they've been banned. But other than the ethical and safety issues that follow this, cloning really does hold many more medical solutions. Like for those that are infertile, that can't bear children, they can take the DNA from the parents that want to have a child and be able to give them a child of their own with their own DNA. And scientists will also be able to select the genetic makeup of the child to eliminate hereditary genes that can cause physical degenerations and certain diseases and syndromes, which will lead to a healthier child. They can also clone human organs such as heart, lungs, and liver, so that people who need those organs don't have to wait on the donor list so they can be cured. So that really makes everybody else a lot healthier. And with that, they can also, and cloning human organs also gets rid of the problem of the immune system rejecting the organs because of different tissue. And yeah. So ultimately, cloning actually has more benefits, and yeah.
All right, Jesse, you've got an OK Audience survey. You make a reference to the movie. It sets up what some of the controversy is going to be, so I can kind of understand what it is you're talking about on the topic. Your claim, you do clearly identify what the proposition is. The first question that pops in my mind is, are you talking about cloning complete human beings? Now later on you start talking about cloning parts, and that's a little bit different because there are other issues that would come into play in this. So I think you need to be a little bit clearer about where you're going with this. There's no setup of what the contents is going to be. So there's no preview of what the supporting structure is. When you get to the arguments that you start presenting, there's not really a structure on that either. You're kind of wandering around on the topic. There are several assumptions here that are being made that there's not any proof for. For instance, the biggest one that you have is that we can clone body parts. Where is there any evidence that we can clone body parts? I don't have a source citation, I don't have an example, I don't have an expert who claims that this is something that could happen. I just have your say-so on this, you know, and I'm just thinking, well, clone the whole body. If I'm going to get fresh parts, why not get the whole new thing? You know, transplant my brain, you know. And you laugh at that, but how come we're not laughing at cloning an arm or a leg? Or there's no more evidence presented on that than there is brain transplant. So we need some proof that these kinds of things can be done. The big problem here is that you've presented the kind of argument that somebody could have at the end of the dinner when they're having an interesting discussion, but there's no research to support any of your point. It's not very well structured, and it's just an interesting idea at most. And so it's not going to be very convincing to most of the audience in listening to this, and that's difficult. You do an okay job talking to the audience in the presentation, but with the absence of credibility your credibility is substantially harmed by the absence of any evidence backing up your claims. You say there have been failed attempts at human cloning. I don't know of any failed attempts at human cloning. Basically, human cloning has been prohibited by most governments around the world, so as far as we know, nobody's been attempting it because it's against the law. And if they have been attempting it and it's failed, well, where's your proof on that? We've got no source on that. So that's the kind of stuff that I think is very problematic here. All right, thank you. And you're going to get me those